Hello again. It's a beautiful morning here. It's Friday, fun Friday. I was actually just outside pulling together some materials for the craft. If you remember, we read the story about Elephant and Piggy and the birds building a nest on Elephant's head. Remember, Gerald was not happy about that. In the end of the story, the nest was where? On top of Piggy's head. So, thought we should build a nest ourselves. Now, I showed you one thing, just a sec. All right, we started with paper plate. If you cut it in half, you get two halves that look, like this. Remember, two halves make a whole. So with two paper plates, I turned it into this. Yes, I had fun gathering materials like a scavenger hunt. What would a bird nest really look like? How do we make one? So step one, I cut the paper plate. Step two, I actually colored the bottom brown for the nest part and the top blue for the sky. I used a stapler. Now, some of my friends have used a stapler before. Some I know probably have not. So you need to get your parents' grown-up friend to help and put some staples. By the way, it's a great way to strengthen those fine motor skills, right? Okay. Also, listening and following directions so you don't get yourself stapled. Trust me, that's not fun. So, we staple it together and we make basically a pocket that you can then add materials to. So, I went to my yard. Hold on. I picked up, well, can you see, a whole bunch of different things. And then I went to work. Little glue. And this is what I ended up with. Kind of cool. Had to put some bark on the outside to make it look like a tree. My tree is actually a pear tree. It's flowering. And of course, I wanted to have some sticks because the bird is nesting in a tree. And I found some different materials to make into my nest. Now, how did I know what materials to use? Well, I had to kind of think a little bit and what does a real nest look like? So we'll set that nest aside for a minute. I want to tell you a little story. I wanted to read you a book called The Best Nest by P.D. Eastman. Looks like this. Whoops. Well, the book is at school. So I had to improvise. Problem solving, Mrs. MacGyver would say. So I thought, and came up with, well, I have the internet, so maybe I can download a few pictures. What do you think? Well, it's not the exact same, but maybe you have this book at home. And the book begins with Mama and Papa Bird. Can you see? Papa Bird is singing the top of his house. And what does he sing? I love my house, I love my nest, in all the world my nest is best. Well, Mama, really referred by P.D. Eastman as Mrs. Bird, is not at all happy. She says it is not the best nest and she is ready to move. So they go on a hunt for another nest, and they try all different kinds of places. A shoe, which is a nest for what? A foot. A mailbox, well, that was a disaster because the mail gets put in the mailbox. They tried a hole in the tree, but there was somebody already living in a tree that was a raccoon. So then they find this other spot inside a church steeple. And Mrs. Bird is very happy, and they go building. What do they grab? Can you see in the picture some of the things that are in their beaks? They end up with straw, hay, horsehair, even human hair. Take all of these things and build this wonderful nest. But look where it is, boys and girls. Oh heavens, Picture's not the best. Mr. and Mrs. Bird worked very hard. It took them the rest of the morning to finish building their nest. Mrs. Bird said, "This nest is really the best. I want to stay here forever." But see what they're building on top of, boys and girls? It's a bell. And the church bells are going to ring. And what happens when the church bells ring? Yes, the nest is not secure or safe. So Mrs. Bird leaves the church steeple. And where does she go? Where does she go? Right back to where they lived before. And Mrs. Bird was sitting there singing, "I love my house, I love my nest, in all the world this nest is best." And why is it the best nest? Because it's their home. And look what happens. Yes, home is the most important place where your family is. Does it really matter where your nest is? I think that's what Mrs. Bird learned. So back to our nest. What is our nest missing? A bird. So I made a bird. I used the other half of the paper plate and cut out a half circle. And then I just added a few triangles. You know how I like to make things with shapes. And now I have a bird who can sit in the nest. Now, I don't know many, let's see, about a whole lot of birds, but I do have a favorite. Can you see that, boys and girls? I like to make mine a bluebird of happiness. In some cultures, the bluebird is a symbol of hope. So, there you have a picture. Yes, I have my own bird book, which sits here in my office because I have windows and I like to watch the birds. You might actually remember there's a picture of a bluebird in our classroom. So, you can make whatever kind of bird you want. What do you see in your yard? What are you familiar with? And maybe learn a couple things about the bird. If you don't have a book, there's always the internet with mom and dad's help. Do a little research. I mentioned looking out my window. Guess what I do have? And yes, I do use them. There's a bird feeder outside my window. Maybe I'll figure out how to take a picture of that for you. Binoculars. Now, you might not have binoculars, so you can make them. Yep, toilet paper rolls. Tape. You can decorate them and go bird watching. Kind of fun. Another outdoor activity for you and very simple to do. Couple more bird nesting ideas to share. If you don't have paper plates, I think I showed you a box, right? A box. This is one that I would actually leave outside. I read a story of a little girl who made a nest in a box, and she actually left it outside to see if a bird would come and make it their own home. Something to think about. Kind of fun. All right. Maybe have a paper bag. Whoops. You can take some scissors and cut it, right, with a grown-up's help, if need be. And then you have a little pouch. And you can fold it, turn it down, and build your own little nest this way. There are tons of ideas on the internet. Now, if we go back to the nest that we built, one neat thing is that it is a little pouch. You could maybe put it up in your room. If you want to add some things, you might say, well, it's a sunny day, put a sun, or maybe clouds. Got some cotton balls. Then you might say, wow, my bird needs to eat. What do birds eat? Well, something else to think about. Maybe worms. All right, I don't have any brown yarn, but we could fix this with a marker and say, well, my bird needs to eat. Anyway, use your imagination. There's so much you can do with this. Let's say you want to use a box and keep it as an indoor toy, an indoor experiment perhaps. What else lives in a nest? Well, you could do birds, and you could say, well, Mrs. Broh-Kahn, I'm not really into birds. even though Mrs. Broh-Kahn has a bird puppet. Yeah, my owl. So I could build a nest for her. Maybe it's a duck. Different kinds of nests, but you'll learn about that. Check out the email I'm sending home too. Has some other ideas. A squirrel. What would you use to put inside? Remember that paper bag? You can shred paper, newspaper, magazine. Actually, the actual tearing is a really good fine motor strengthening activity. Or you could take the scissors and do some cutting. Lots of ways to do it. And then you could have more of an indoor type nest that you can play and build with. Okay, we're going to change gears a little bit. Didn't read you a story. I will next time. I have a little chant, a little story to tell you, and you can play along too. You might be familiar with the story. It's about something that birds eat. And what's one of the things birds eat? Worms. What do we see a lot of in springtime? Worms. All right. You want to do it with me? You ready? All right, here we go. It's a big, bright, sunny day. I'm sitting on my fence post, chewing my gum, playing with my yo-yo. Wee, wee, wee. When along came Herman the worm, and he was this big. I said, Herman, what's going on? And Herman said, I'm hungry. The next day, it's a big, bright, sunny day, sitting on my fence post, chewing my gum, playing with my yo-yo. Wee, wee, wee. When along came Herman the worm, and he was this big. I said, Herman, what happened? I ate a whole watermelon. The next day, it was a big, bright, sunny day, sitting on my fence post, chewing my gum, playing with my yo-yo. Wee, wee, wee. When along came Herman the worm, and he was this big. I said, Herman, what happened? I ate a whole chocolate cake. The next day, it's a big, bright, sunny day, sitting on my fence post, chewing my gum, playing with my yo-yo. Wee, wee, wee. When along came Herman the worm, and he was this big. I said, Herman, what happened? He said, I ate a whole pizza. The next day, it's a big, bright, sunny day, sitting on my fence post, chewing my gum, playing with my yo-yo. Wee, wee, wee. When along came Herman the worm, and he was this big. I said, Herman, what happened? Herman said, excuse me, I burped. Kind of cute, kind of fun. You can change it around different ways, add different foods, but still kind of fun. Hope you enjoyed it. I've had a good time visiting with you all today. We'll see you again super soon. Take care, be safe, and keep those emails coming and sending pictures. It's fun to keep in touch. See you again soon. Happy Fun Friday.